Good evening, everybody. This is Jason with another episode of the Inked Up Runner. Today, I have a local runner on from Middle Tennessee. I always enjoy, finding local folks to talk to, and his information was shot over to me and said, "You got to talk to this guy." And I said, he won Cloudsplitter, and then for a lot of people that don't know about Cloudsplitter is one of the most kicking races on the East Coast that no one's heard of. It literally is extremely tough. So I'm talking to a guy who's won it. So I'm talking with Joe Jude. Thank you for joining me, Joe. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I've watched a lot of your stuff and appreciate all the athletes from the area that you brought on and have got to listen to and, see how they progress in person, as well as then listen to their stories on your podcast. It's been great. And I'm happy to be here today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I always, it's funny because I've not gotten used to this. I was at that, so Joe and I was at a Fleet Feet event last night. I'm a red team member with Ultra, and so I try to show up anytime we have an event that showcases the shoes. And I was there, and Joe was there, and there was a whole lot of people there, and I had several folks walk up to me and say hi and introduce themselves and say, "I really like your show." And it took me a minute to realize that they were talking about my podcast YouTube channel. So I was like, "Oh, well, thank you," and it means a lot. So anytime you guys see me, come out and say hi and hello, and and I really appreciate that and love talking to people and hearing from people that watch the show. So with that being said, before obviously you just didn't start running and win Cloudsplitter. So tell us a little bit about kind of like, are you a local guy from the area? Did you transplant into here? Kind of give us a little bit of background and kind of like your area you're from.
Yeah, so probably by my thick accent, everyone could tell that I am a transplant. But yeah, I'm from the Northeast. I've probably been running about, I think, 21 years now. Picked up running when I was younger in 8th grade. When I was growing up, I played every sport: basketball, baseball, soccer, floor hockey, you name it. If it was physical activity, I was doing it. And then as I progressed through high school, when you get to 9th grade and you're still like 90 pounds, 80 pounds, you're not going to be on the football field or the basketball court anymore. Yeah, I kind of jumped into cross country first in high school. And that's kind of where I found my passion for running. I really liked being out on the trails. Then I eventually evolved into a track athlete at a young age as well. High school, I'd say I was middle of the pack runner. I had some good runs here and there. And then after high school, I went to a small Division II school in Pennsylvania called Mansfield University. And I ran for their team for about 3 years. Looking back on that, had a great experience there. I think one of the biggest things I learned while being on the team there is how to race. And I feel like that has helped my running career till this day. I always say I get on the line with a lot of people that I think have a lot more talent than me or a lot more fit than me. And just being able to put together smart race plans and stick to my own plans and stay in my own lane has allowed me to be very successful. Then, coming out of college, I feel like I kind of fell out of running for about a year or two. Started working full time out of school. I was in a town that had about 2,000 people in it. So like running after school, like after college, after high school wasn't really a normal thing to do. That's not many people's hobbies. It was really no running communities. So basically at that point, I kind of became, I guess, a gym rat. I would say, you know, go to the gym every day after work, lift weights, do cardio machines, stuff like that. Pick up basketball games, all that fun stuff with my friends. And then at like some point, as I progressed through my career, I ended up in upstate New York, and I got introduced to road biking, and jumped on the road bike for about 3 years. And those are some pretty fun years, getting in pelotons, riding with a bunch of friends, just enjoying that. And then after the whole road bike thing, I kind of transitioned back into running again. And there was a little hiccup with running when I first jumped back in. Around the age of like 28, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I was pretty much laid up for about a year. And I thought my athletic career was done at that point, and I just became like a peak bagger. I was just hiking high peaks and stuff. Most of the doctors that I dealt with, physical therapists at that time, told me I was never going to run again and whatnot. And then like there was just a culmination of things. This one year where I said to myself, like, I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm going to turn this around and get back into running some of these high peaks. And that kind of just lit the fire for me. That year that I was diagnosed, my brother, who was born legally blind and without any heart valves, he started running for the first time in his life. He's done 2 marathons now, couch to marathon. And I was like, if this guy's out there doing it, I better get back into it too. And then, you know, I just bumped into like videos online, like of ultra runners, like stories, like motivational stories that got me hooked on the sport. I think the Brian Morrison out at Western State one, like when I saw that, I think the first thing I said to myself was like, I'm going to do that. I'm gonna run 100. And it's kind of funny. I'm talking about this right now with Western States this weekend and everything. It's kind of round circle to think about that right now. But yeah, his story really motivated me, got me out there again. And then there's just like some other random stuff that I fell into trail running with. Like at my group run the other day, I was telling someone that I was on the AT at Katahdin when Scott Urich finished. For the record, I didn't even know what trail running was. I was out there hiking with a couple friends, got to the top, got to the famous sign at the top, got my picture and everything, and I started hiking down the backside of the mountain. And as we were coming down, about 30 park rangers were coming up, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, guy's breaking the speed record today. You might want to turn around. And I was like, whatever. Like I said, I didn't know what trail running was. And I just figured the guy was running up the mountain like as fast as he can one day. And about like 3 months later, I was in a Walmart, and I saw his picture on front of Ultra Reg magazine, and I was like, I was there that day. I missed out on that, you know? But yeah, just a bunch of stuff, like small things like that, kind of combined to get me back into the sport and where I am right now.
That's awesome. It's funny you mentioned in school being small and being limited on what you can play, because you know, you saw me, and I mean, I'm still a small guy. I mean, I guess you would consider me more average than small. I mean, I weigh like maybe, you know, I guess I'm small because I weigh like under 160 pounds. So I guess you could say I'm small. So I always wanted to play football, right? And I was obviously when if I, as a grown man, I'm weighing 160 pounds. You can imagine what I weighed when I was in high school. I was like, you know, that big. And so I was told I couldn't play football. And so then I thought, well, hell, surely I can qualify for basketball. No, apparently you need to weigh, you know, there's a weight threshold for basketball as well. And so I didn't run. I played tennis because, you know, that's the only sport that I was, you know, was big enough to play. That was
Mhm.
not too small or too big, but that's awesome though with your story, because you know adversity is something that either you can you can either let it stop you in your tracks, or you can let it motivate you to move forward. And it sounds like you had a lot of inspiration in your brother there, because
Yeah.
having the issues he had with his heart and still being able to run some marathons. I mean, damn,
Yeah.
you have people that have no problems whatsoever that can't even run a marathon at
Mhm.
all. And then you have somebody who has, some deficiencies there and is able to do it. That's just a remarkable story. Um, so you were talking a little bit about, you were up north, you were doing some hiking and whatnot. Did you, when you got back in the run, and did you start back on the road, or did you
Yeah.
immediately go to the trail?
So I started back on the road. I think it was about 2018. I still actually have my log. I have it posted on my door. Everywhere I live, I posted on my front door the page for my running log, what I did my first week. And I think it's 2018. But I got 3 runs in the first week I got back into training. And by runs, I mean all 3 of them were 2-mile walks. I walked out to the baseball field near the house I lived in, and I walked back. So I try and keep that up to remind me like where I've come from, and like how much further like I could go based on that. But it took me about a year to get, like, I don't want to say back in shape, but back into where I was confident enough to go out and race. And I think my first race back was a winter half marathon in Rochester, New York. I ran a road marathon. I almost ran a PR, I think. And at that point, I was just thrilled to be back. And but then at that point, I also wanted to get on the trails. That's when ultra running kind of made it onto the scene for myself. I think in 2019, I wanted to do like a half marathon on a trail, then maybe work up to a marathon. And I went to Virginia and I did Terrapin Mountain 50K, part of the Beast series up there with Dave Horton and Clark Zealander. But originally I was just going to do the half. And about 2 months out, I was like, I've never done a marathon. Like, there's not many people registered for the half. Like, I'm just going to jump into 50K, see what happens. If I had to walk, like I was like totally content with walking the last 10 miles. I was like, I'm going to do the 50K. And that was my first ultra. And it was really good experience to get into the ultra community because about 9 miles in, I hooked up with a guy that he's still kind of acquaintances with, but from like about mile 9 to I think about 20, he pretty much told me everything I needed to know about ultra run, and it was awesome. I knew nothing about nutrition, nothing about training. I may have ran on trails like twice before that race. He had been to UTMB at that point, I think twice. So it was just cool to meet someone like that, as well as still see how he's progressing now. He's still doing a lot of big things. But I think I finished 5th in that race. I probably ran right around 5 hours. I had a really good day. I thought I was going to run about 5:30. So, but yeah, that was my first trail run ultra. And then things from there kind of just waterfalled. I wanted to jump into everything possible. But with that, I'd say I kind of do a lot more stuff that are solo efforts. I like getting out there on my own, like FKT stuff. So I probably don't race as much as most other athletes do. Usually like once or twice a year. I just like going out there and enjoying putting projects together.
So when you talk about uh, projects, talk about some of those projects, because it's funny because I had a guy on a few weeks ago. He's actually a pretty, big race photographer here on in the East Coast, named Pete Schreiner. And Pete, I don't think has any race results, and he just goes out. But Pete's ran Scar, right? And he paced Liz Canty on Scar and helped with that. So Pete's no slouch, right? Pete also helped. He paced a buddy of mine on Scar. So Pete's a badass, but he's more of an adventure type guy. And so talk a little bit about some of these these adventure style type runs that you've kind of gotten into.
Yeah, so I guess the first one I'll talk about is one of the first FKTs I went after in New York. It's called the Taconic Crest Trail. I think, gosh, I can't even remember. I think it's 35 miles, but it runs pretty much right through the point where New York, Vermont, and Massachusetts meet, and it's just an ugly trail. And people that know me, they know that's what I like. I just like a trail that works you the whole time. It may not have great views, it may not have the best scenery. I just like being out there and like having a trail that works you and I don't want to say makes you suffer, but makes you work the whole time. So around like 2020, I lived about half hour from the head of that trail. And throughout that summer, I was just out there, kind of reconning it, trying to see what I could do on it. I knew I'd be close to getting the FKT on it. And the individual that had the FKT on it, I also was intrigued by his story and his father's story. His father, I think, is like 86 years old now, and he won like the Javelina 100 virtual challenge a couple years ago when they did the month-long challenge, who could do the most miles. But I'd see them out there all the time just hiking, no matter when I was there, what time of the day, and it just motivated me. And I thought that going after like a local time on a trail like that would be fun, because I seen the hard work they put in, and if I could go out and get a time on that trail that's maybe faster than theirs, like that'd be something that I'd feel accomplished about. But first time I went for it, it was actually my first DNF. I went for it, I think, on July 4th, the one season, and I got overheated and had to stop route 25 miles in. And that goes back to what we talked about like before, like that whole adversity thing. And like that first time I failed at something in trail running was like probably one of the best learning experiences I've ever had. I made a lot of mistakes, learned from those mistakes, try and prevent them in the future, stuff like that, and I enjoy that, like, about running, because I apply it to life. I apply it to work. It teaches you about yourself.
Yeah. So you got that. You did the one in New York, and then I guess running from, because I've been to like Manhattan in New York, but I've never been to like anything more. I've just been to the city, right?
Yeah, so I didn't live in the city. That's a whole different world.
So, but from a climate standpoint, how much different is it from, say, running in New York in the summertime and running, here in the summertime?
I mean, here it's much worse. Like the humidity, the length is different too. So that time, where I got that DNF on that trail, that was kind of just a fluke day where there's a hot day, but that was the day I decided to do it. But yeah, the weather down here does not compare, or up there doesn't compare to down here. Most summers where I was living, you're running in 75 degrees, 80 degrees, no humidity. then you get a week of 90 degrees. That's kind of, that's your summer. And then it's nice weather from then on out.
Yeah, it's funny because at one point I was looking to transfer to work from work up to Maine, and when we were looking at homes, none of the homes came with air AC. And I was asking one of the real estate agents about that, and they're like, "No, you don't need AC up here because it doesn't really get hot enough consistently to where you would need air conditioning." And that just blows my mind because, here in the South, you lose AC. You lost AC this week, you'd be in bad shape. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it was miserable, the last couple of days. I mean, it was hot last night, and we were running after 6 o'clock. I mean, it was still stuffy up on the trail. So
Yeah. It's amazing
so
how many people showed up to run at that event last night with how hot it is. It always, every time I show up on Thursdays at Dirtbags and I see that many people there, I'm surprised. And, it's great that everyone shows up like that.
well, it's a community thing, right? And I think that's what that's the great thing about ultra running, because you were talking about meeting that guy during your race, and he kind of taught you a little bit about it. Because I had, for my first 50 miler was my third ultra, and it was at the Damn Yeti.
Okay.
And up to that point, the two other ultras I ran was Yamacraw, which is a mountain 50K, right? I know you know Yamacraw.
Mhm.
And Strolling Jim, which is that road race of Laz's in War Trace, right?
Yeah.
And both of those races are so considerably different than the Damn Yeti, because Yamacraw, you have the ups and the downs, and you're in that,
Mhm.
it's not like a flat surface where you can consistently just run, right? And then
Yeah.
Strolling Jim is very similar, even though it's
Mhm.
on the road. Unless you're an elite, most people don't just outright run that race straight from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end, right?
Mhm.
There is some walking, at least during the walls portion of it. So anyway, when I ran the Damn Yeti, I started running with a lady. And my strategy was I was just going to run the whole thing, just like straight from the beginning to the end, because it's flat, right? You run down a
Yeah.
mountain
Mhm.
and then you're running on a gravel trail. Well, I'm running with this lady, for a few miles, and she said, "Yeah, when I get down to the bottom of the mountain, I'm going to start running intervals." And I was like, "What's an interval?" Because I didn't know what an interval was. And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna run for 4 minutes and then walk for a minute." And she goes, "It's gonna help me
Cool.
conserve my energy, right?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "I'll give that a try." So I literally stayed with her doing that for the entire race, and ended up having a killer race.
Mhm.
And but it makes me wonder how I would have done if I never would have linked up with her, right? Because her
Yeah.
strategy helped me succeed, but she was good enough to talk to me about it, because you just don't see that
Mhm.
in just like a standard road marathon or anything like that. So I think that's pretty cool. So you say you don't race a lot, but you did run the Cloudsplitter 100. And
Yeah.
what
I
made you
caught
get,
lightning.
huh?
Caught lightning in a bottle out there, I say.
So was that your first attempt at 100?
That was my first 100. Yeah. I was signed up for the 100K, and about 2 months prior, I had the fitness, I had the time on feet for the 100, and I changed to the 100, and I was like, I'm gonna try this and see what happened. And that's kind of history. But yeah, so I showed up there with I think 3 goals on the day. I knew if I ran over my head, I'd be around like 22 hours. If I had a good day, I'd be right on 24 4 hours. And I was totally content with if I didn't feel it after 50 miles, I was just gonna walk the rest and try and make the 32-hour cutoff. But I just had a perfect kind of day. The race started out rough. I got lost in the first 4 miles. Like the course was perfectly marked, but I guess I wasn't paying attention. So like I lost 15 minutes there. When I finally got back on track, on the smoothest piece of the entire course, that was like a gravel road. I tripped and fell, smashed my hand bottle. It was 30 degrees. My glove froze. I was just like, oh man, this isn't going well at all. So I just looked at my watch and I said, you know, I'm gonna walk for 10 minutes and see what happens. And I think about the first 9 miles was uphill to the tower at the top of the mountain. And when I got up to the top, I was in like fifth place. And I think that was like the only spot in the race I had a time picked out to where I didn't want to be ahead of, because if I knew I was ahead of that time, I was out too hard. And when I hit the tower, I was still like right on pace where I wanted to be. And I just kind of sat in and relaxed for a while. I met the leader around 25 miles, and we just yo-yoed all day. It was like back and forth till about the 50-mile mark. And at the 50-mile mark, he sat down with his crew, and I was feeling really good at that point. I had yo-yoed like to catch him, and I put some music in, and I tell people that from like mile 50 to about, I think, mile 72, it was like this. That's all I remember. Like I just got in that zone where everything was going perfect, like wasn't thinking, running smooth. And then like I hit the 70, 72, 78 mile mark, and then finally realized what was going on and was like, oh boy, like now I'm nervous. The guy behind me, like I've seen his results. He's probably going to chase me down. But we crossed paths a couple times in the last like 20 miles. And every time like we crossed paths, I kind of looked down at my watch to see how far away from the aid station he was and I was. And for that last like 30 miles, I think we were about an hour apart every time we met. And I still like till this day, like I remember coming down into town, and there's like a 90-degree turn like onto the main street, and like that's like the half-mile mark to go. I was still looking back for the guy. I'm like, come on, where you at? Like I know you're hiding back there, like chasing me down. But then the funny thing was I come into town, and you finish in kind of like a garage, a big open garage there in Norton, Virginia. And it was the 70-mile aid station as well. So I walk in the garage, the guy at the table takes my number, and I sit down. And for about 10 minutes, no one realized that I had finished. So like I had like a 10-minute period of like just like clearing my head, like realizing like what happened. And then finally they realized that I had won, and everyone had come over at that point. And like I hadn't looked at my watch for like 50 miles either. And looked down at my watch was dead. So like I asked them my time, and when they told me my time, I was like, oh, I had a good day, I guess.
What was your time there again?
I think oh gosh, 20:35.
Holy cow. That's remarkable. And
Yeah.
and for those that don't know much about that race, what's the elevation gain on that race?
They say it's 27. I think my Strava ended up saying like 19. Um, the elevation's kind of deceiving because there's like 3 or 4 big climbs. You know, you think of those mile or 2 mile climbs, but you get down into like this ravine during the race, and it's just like a rock garden that like a mountain biker would ride through. And there's just a ton of like false flats in that area too. So you're climbing at like 1 to 2% grade to 3 to for 3 or 4 miles, like in those rock beds, and you don't realize that like that's what's going on, and that's where everyone I feel gets beat up, as well as down in that like ravine. There's probably like 40 or 50 stream crossings, so a lot going on down in that area.
And that's a race where, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can decide at any point. Well, you can decide at a certain point that if you signed up for the 100 miler, you can decide that 100K is all you want to run, and you can drop down to that, and that's okay. I think that's how the race works, right?
Yeah, I think that's how it's set up, and I think a lot of people ended up doing that because it kind of got cold that night. At the top of the mountain, Bald Knob is kind of where the main aid station is. And when you get up there at one point, you're at about 52 miles or something. So if you drop down back to town, you hit your 100K. And being there in the race for about 20 minutes, I thought that was going to be like my time, like where I was going to relax, make sure I had everything. And when I got to that point in the race, the weather had dropped to about 30 degrees, and like the wind chill was like 20 more. So like I'm filling my bag as quick as possible, throwing my jacket on. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I've got to get out, got to get to the bottom of the mountain as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't prepared for this, you know?
Oh no, I imagine not. My friend, I think, was there that year, and I think he ended up just dropping. I think he probably could have got
Yeah, Will, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he could have he probably gotten that 100K finish if he wanted. But I think he was, in his mindset, he came there for the 100, and that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Which
that makes sense.
Which that's fair, right? I mean, that's, and there's nothing wrong with anybody that drops down by no stretch of the imagination, but I understand his mindset that, he signed up for the 100 miler, and anything less than that was not his goal, right? And so that was what he came to do. So, but did you do that without a crew as well?
Oh yeah, I went out there without a crew. But I do a lot of stuff like that. It's just what I prefer. It's not. I don't know why it's just what I like to do. But it was kind of fun because the guy that was in second had a big crew with him. His name was Chris Harrington, out from, I think, Colorado. And like I said, we were back and forth all day. So like when I was coming into aid stations, like his family and friends were asking me like if I needed anything, were helping me out. Like once the race volunteers realized I didn't have a crew, they were really helpful. And then like there was like 3 or 4 people that like I had been following on like Strava for like about a year or two that I hadn't met in person that were actually at the race. So like I popped into aid stations and like we made eye contact, and they're like, hey, like I know you, we've never met, and like I got to meet them. So that was fun too.
That's cool. That's really cool. So I guess, and I know you say you don't do a whole lot of races. So, after Cloudsplitter, talk about, I know you've ran some races after Cloudsplitter, but kind of what are some of your goals that you're looking at? I mean, have you done any, I mean, in between Cloudsplitter now, have you done any other adventure style runs? Are you eyeing any sort of FKTs? Are you eyeing any particular race? Because obviously if you can run Cloudsplitter in 20-ish hours, right? You can pretty much, I mean, let's be honest with you, Joe, you could run probably most 100 milers around here and be competitive in them. So, and I know that's not really your thing, but with that being said, kind of what are you looking to get into?
Yeah, so so like I'd say last year, I don't want to call it an unsuccessful year, but it was a year that really put things into perspective for me. After Cloudsplitter, I was kind of on the grind of like, I want to run fast. All I want to do is run this time. I want to run that time. And I kind of got away from what I actually wanted to do to have fun. I ran a 50 miler last year in North Carolina. I think it was called, oh gosh, Wicked Revival. It was just a small race. A lot of good people out there. I made a lot of connections. Ran that last year. And my big goal last year was Pinhoti. I DNF'd at around 40 miles in that race. About 2 or 3 weeks out, I got sick. And, my parents haven't been on a plane in about 2 years to come down here and visit me. And they had plane tickets to come down and crew. And I was like, if my parents are coming, I'm going to give this a go and see what I could do. And I just had a rough day. Luckily, I got the 40 miles. I met a guy from Mississippi, forget what part, and he just drugged me along for 40 miles. God bless him. He was probably happy to see me leave after I dropped. But yeah, I got to 40 miles and I dropped in that race. And then since then, I've kind of tried to shift back to like what I want to do with my running. I'll say one of the biggest things that has helped me over this year is finding the running community here in Nashville. Being around people with similar goals really motivates me. And then just getting back to doing things I like to do. I don't think it's any secret. I like to go out to Frozen Head State Park a lot. I've been working I'm going to say I've been working out there on a project for 3 years that finally was achieved last weekend. But yeah, this year, that's what I realized. That's where I want to be. So I just said, I'm going out there every weekend and I'm going to see what I could do. I want to see how fast I could run that Barkley Challenge loop out there. When I first moved here 3 years ago, my first experience out there was perfect. Went out on a hot day, got lost up by Garden Spot, made it to the tower, thought I was going to die, walked down South Old Mac instead of going and finishing Chimney Top. And I was like, this is it. This is where I want to be. This reminds me of home. These are the mountains I like to run. These are the type of trails. So, yeah, just been heading out there on weekends and enjoying the trails out there. When I first moved here and I saw the time that John Kelly had set on that, I thought no way I'd get anywhere close to that. Then after about a year out there and my second year out there, I started thinking, like I could get within 15 minutes of that. Like that would be a big goal. Like I want to be within 15 minutes of that. And then this year, I just went out there every weekend and I like started seeing what was happening. And I was like, okay, like I may be able to run faster than what I thought. And I mean, now the goal is sub 3. I ran 3:15 out there this past weekend. I want to be the first to break 3, but if someone else does it first, I'm going to celebrate too, just because like I want to see someone do it. I believe it's possible. So I'd love to see it happen at some point.
So are you going to try to jump into the BFC?
The Fall Classic?
Yeah.
I think at some point. Can't do it this year. I've got some other obligations. I'm going out to Whistler the weekend before. I'm going to run Whistler Alpine Meadows 100. That's my big race, I guess, this year. That's on the schedule. And then the week of the Classic, I'm going to go down the Georgia Jewel and crew for a friend. And I feel like everyone in the running group is going down there for some reason. So it's just going to be a fun day. So that's the plan for this year. But yeah, at some point, I hope to run that fall classic.
Yeah, that's one I need to try to do at some point. But my running is not in the best of shape right now. I like if I would have actually tried to have gotten into the Jewel. I probably should have just signed up for it, because I remember when it went on sale and I was looking at it and I was like, no, I want to run that. I'm like, and I went back and forth. But next year I'll jump into it and get in to run the Georgia Jewel, because I think I'm one of the few people around here that has not ran the Jewel yet, and that's a big one that a lot of us local folks get down there to run. But I think you hit on something really cool. Is the Nashville trail running community is just amazing. They've got so many great personalities. Just like last night, going to the dirt bags, and I know I'm going to miss some names, but great folks like David Talbert, Philip Lee, and then, and I would be, Jason Lloyd, Eric Waterman, man, those two guys are just top notch guys. I mean, Jason Lloyd, I joke with him, at the rate he's going, he's like Benjamin Button. He just keeps getting faster the older he gets, right? I mean, the guy is just, he's like a freak of nature. It's like, you see his...
I cannot fail to not tell this story. So I go out to Fiery Gizzard with Jason Lloyd for a run, and we're standing on the edge of the waterfall, and he's taking photos, and he drops his phone off the top of the waterfall down into the water. His iPhone. Yeah. If that was my phone and it dropped out of my pocket and onto the floor, it'd shatter in 1,000 pieces. We go down to the bottom and that thing's in one piece and in perfect condition.
Wow, that's amazing. But he is, he's such a great representative for the community. And I know there's so many more, but he's just such a nice guy. And it's, you just have such a great group of people that are just so welcoming and just really embrace, just embrace you. I mean, as a newcomer, right? I mean, it's just like, our friend, John Harden right now, who is just a super nice guy. He's up on the AT trying to break an FKT and just crushing it right now. But just a nice guy, you just can't, like I said, I know I'm going to miss people, but, those are just a few of the folks that are just really wonderful ambassadors for the sport here locally. And Jason Thinnell, I got to say, Jason Thinnell out at Cumberland Transit, man, the guy's just killer and such a nice guy, and just does such hard stuff and just makes it look just so easy, so. But so you said the Whistler is your A race for this year.
Yeah.
Are you looking to jump in to try to get into some of these bigger style races, like you looking at maybe jumping into Leadville 100? I know Jason ran Leadville. Any thoughts of trying to run a Western States qualifier, going back to Pinhoti?
Yeah, my mind changes every day, so there's not a good answer to that. That's the type of person I am. That Barkley loop I just did, that was supposed to be a spring thing, and then I pushed it off. Finally went out one weekend and did it. I was supposed to have a long run, just showed up one day and was like, you know what, I'm feeling it today. I'm racing today. That's just how it is. I don't know, like, there's not many bucket list items. It's kind of what I'm drawn to at the time. I feel like I have to be really passionate about what I want to work on and what I want to do. I don't know, this year Wham just really drew to me. I want to do something with a bunch of elevation. I wanted to travel a little bit. I'm a fan of the race director, Gary Robbins, and then like the fact that it's going to be a race where you get 32,000 feet and the highest you're going to be at is 8,000. That's like intriguing to me because I could travel to that. And I don't want to say I don't have to worry about getting sick from the elevation, but there's a lot less risk of starting at like 2,000 and going up to 8 compared to if you go out to Colorado or Utah and you're starting at 8,000 and you're getting up to 12 or 14. I don't want to go out somewhere like that and spend all my money, my travel time, like my work leave and drop at like 20 miles because I've got elevation sickness.
Well, hell, Jason went out to Leadville, and I don't think he did any really preparation for it at all. He just went out there and ran it and finished it. Just
Yeah.
such a damn signature thing, but like most
And then
people,
he's running fine.
but most people can't do that, like,
No.
you got to have some sort of acclimation to do something like that. But anyway, so I guess it's fair to say, we'll I guess, wrapping it up, I guess it's fair to say we'll see Joe wherever Joe decides Joe's going to be. Because
Yeah, like right now it's going to be Frozen Head. Like that's where I want to be. So I'm going to be out there pretty much every weekend. Hopefully that sub-3 loop will come in the spring of 2023, but we'll see what happens,
We'll keep pushing. Well, I guess we'll leave it at Frozen Head. So, but it's been great talking with you. Great story. And it's cool to find somebody and talk to somebody, just like talking with Pete, that's really not race driven. And there's nothing wrong with being race driven, but somebody that just likes the challenge of getting out there and just pushing himself to different limits to see what they can do. And let's face it, Frozen Head is one of the ultimate arenas to challenge yourself from a standpoint of it just beats you into the ground out there. Just such a hard terrain. So I think it's really, really awesome. But again, I appreciate you being on. It's really been great. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. And if anyone sees this and they haven't been out to Dirt Bags on Tuesday or Thursday, definitely come hit us up. The community's great. Tuesday night at Smith at 6, and then Thursday over at Percy Warner.
That's right. And it's a good time out there at both of them. But that's going to be it for this week's episode. As always, there'll be a video audio version of this. And that's going to be it. And I appreciate all the support that everybody gives me week in and week out. And as always, I will see you on the trail.